And a very good morning to everyone. Just about 1 o'clock in the morning on the 18th of October. Just a reminder to everyone, let me just bring it up here very briefly to go to goldandsilverradio.com. We've had some terrific interviews with just the best of guests about the subject of why gold is going higher, silver to some extent as well, although that's been kind of stuck. But you should go to goldandsilverradio.com. That is goldandsilverradio.com with one R for silver, one R from radio. In other words, you need to use two R's to be able to find the web page. Now let's go back to the stock market picture here. And we see a couple of dull days here for the market. One big red candle, kind of like a black neutral candle today. And if I scroll up here a little bit, let me show you volume. And volume has been lacking, especially today, where you see that figure there of 3 billion shares versus 6 billion not too long ago when the market was really selling off hard. Now, was it capitulation volume? I don't think so. I think what it is we just have a general buyer's strike given the conditions that remain and are taunting at the financial markets. And maybe perhaps there's been a little short covering mixed into this picture to lift stock prices. It's just not an bottom line is it's not an impressive market activity that we've seen in recent days with respect to this S&P 500 and the fading out of volume. It's not a good thing. Let's look at gold here. It's up a little bit tonight. It's traded as high as 17.95 the ounce, and here it is at 17.91 for the closing price. So gold remains resilient. There are those headlines out there about Hugo Chavez now of Venezuela wanting to bring all of its overseas gold holdings back. Let's hope that J.P. Morgan has enough gold to send back to good old Hugo. Of course, they could probably find some contractual language to delay the shipping back of, what does Venezuela have, about 90 tons of gold. J.P. Morgan should have no trouble delivering that, although it does raise questions since that gold has been pledged in other ways, probably 100 times over by J.P. Morgan. So we'll just have to wait and see here. I was thinking that we would perhaps retest the 1675 area in a correction, a downdraft scenario. But gold simply remains resilient. It doesn't necessarily have to do anything that you might look at from a chart perspective. Yes, it remains overbought, but really, perhaps gold is saying, who cares if I'm overbought? Anyway, tonight it is down 90 cents on the December contract, 17.92, and up $1.20 on the front month at 17.92.40. So gold remaining resilient, was down as a little over $5 earlier in the evening, and I suspect that gold is holding on to its bid. As you can see here, I'll scroll it up. The ESU 11, that's the most actively traded S&P futures contract, is down 11.75. This may not be indicative of much, since these contracts have a way of swinging around, especially with Europe not open yet. We'll have to wait and see what happens when Euro business gets underway. But in the realm of gold, the interesting thing about Europe is that the Swiss folks decided not to go along with a currency peg to the euro, and that is probably going to mean more pain short term for the Swiss. Fancy the concept of having to go through some pain, but doing things the right way perhaps for the long term. In other words, if they had done a peg to the euro, depending upon how large it would have been, it might have actually ended the safe haven status of the Swiss franc and they could then suffer all sorts of damage from, in terms of it, of investors selling it off and then jumping into the final haven investment, which would be gold, and to a lesser extent silver. Silver's been drifting around the $40 an ounce level. It's been down again, but the Swiss had pegged their currency to the euro. That would have been for basically short-term benefits that would not pan out in the longer term. Also, the Merkel-Sarkozy meeting today scotched the idea pretty much of Eurobond type of financing for Italy and Spain. That's not good. By the way, there are reports of rioting in Germany, which seem to be a bastion of relative peace, so that's not a good development, as some nice Mercedes have been going up in flames by people annoyed with the so-called fat cats. And of course there was that the UK has been hit by rioting. I was asked a question on Gold and Silver Radio on 9/7 The Apple on Saturday about whether or not we would see rioting, and my answer for now is that the US population is very complacent, and it would take a lot. It would probably take the taking away of various government cheese to get the population riled up, and probably they are going to avoid that given the ongoing logjam in the House and Senate. And on the one hand, that's good news that we probably won't see giant riots breaking out, although there are certainly tinderboxes within the country. On the other hand, by continuing the complacent mindset of the general American population, what you have is a continuation of just unlimited printing and fiat currency. Of course, when we look at these markets, the main lesson that we get from this is that the wild card is going to be QE3. Will it be announced in Jackson Hole, Wyoming next week by Ben Bernanke? Will he hold off? And just how large is it going to be? Is there going to be anything even more creative that the Fed will pull out of its toolbox? Well, I'll be keeping an eye on for potential other things the Fed might be able to do, and I'll let you know. And I'll just leave it at that this S&P 500 looks kind of dubious here in terms of its rebound. Some have been talking romantically about seeing it get up to 1220. Yes, of course, there's a chance it might happen, but I think this market spent too brief a time at 1120, and that is going to need to be retested. And if it fails, then I believe we will go right back down to last year's lows at around 1010 or 1010 on the S&P. If the S&P can get up there towards 1225, 1230, then that would be a great opportunity just to take some profits if it does indeed occur. I'm still banking on the possibility of 1010 before any type of QE announcement is made, if it's made, and there have been some doubts floating around now out on the web concerning that. Well, anyhow, have a great evening, and I'll post more on Thursday if need be. Take care.